Is GTA 6 in trouble? No. Let's be real, no matter how the game ships, like, it could be a pile of shit, it's still gonna break records and sell millions. It's the most anticipated game of all time. Like, if Call of Duty can get away year after year with selling just shit games and glorified DLCs, then I'm sure GTA 6 is gonna be just fine. Speaking of which, quickly, I recently picked up Modern Warfare 3, so if you guys want me to make a review on that, I'll happily do that.
Sniper, please.
Shut up, Casey, you fat prick.
Fuck you. Fuck your mother.
Anyways, there's a lot of talk on the internet about GTA 6, a lot of rumors and discussion, basically saying there's a chance the game might get locked to 30 frames per second. This comes after some alleged PS5 Pro spec leaks, which is basically saying, yeah, it won't be able to handle GTA 6 in more than 30 frames. And of course, this has got a lot of people talking on the internet. Is 30 frames good enough? Can you even play 30 frames? Should 60 frames be the minimum? Lots of people talking, lots of different opinions, so I thought I'd share my 2 cents. But firstly, I put out a poll over on my TikTok on the situation. I basically just asked, if GTA 6 is locked to 30 frames per second, are you still going to buy the game? And out of the 469 people that answered on the poll, 312 of them say, yeah, I'll still buy the game. Which, let's face it, if the game does end up being locked to 30 frames per second, it's still going to sell. And I mean, looking at Red Dead Redemption 2, for example, that game's locked at 30 frames per second on both consoles, looking absolutely fucking fantastic. And no one really complains about the frame rate. I see a lot of people say that it should get a next-gen patch like GTA 5 did, going from 30 to 60 FPS, and I do see where they're coming from. And I think with current gen consoles, it might potentially be possible for them to make Red Dead 2 at 60 frames per second, but also I don't think it's really worth Rockstar's time. I mean, at this point, it's clear they've abandoned the game. Like, look at the state of fucking Red Dead Online. And to be fair to them, you know, they probably would make some money if they resold the game at 60 FPS on new gen consoles, but I think a lot of their efforts are just going towards GTA 6 at the moment. Maybe after GTA 6 comes out, they might re-release Red Dead down the line at 60 FPS, but I don't know. Getting a bit sidetracked here, to be honest. But yeah, there's lots of talks. People are saying, yeah, there should be 60 FPS minimum, 30 FPS isn't playable, and I just want to say 30 FPS is definitely playable, and this is coming from myself, who is a frame rate snob. So much, in fact, I just spent £3,000 on a new PC just to get as much FPS as possible. And don't get me wrong, FPS is important, but in a story mode game, you know, you can really get away with 30 frames per second. If new competitive games like Call of Duty were releasing at 30 FPS, I could definitely see the problem because it's an online game, but in single player games like Red Dead 2, like GTA 6, where the graphics are fucking incredible, you can really get away with 30 frames. Going back to my point earlier, Red Dead 2 is 30 FPS on consoles and still looks great, and chances are that, you know, GTA 6 will look better than Red Dead 2 graphically. And if the graphics are a lot better than Red Dead 2, then the fact that's even running at 30 FPS on console is a miracle in itself. But what a lot of people have been saying, and something I personally agree with, is you should be able to toggle. So for example, you can play at max graphics settings, you know, ray tracing the lot at 30 FPS, but also there should be a mode where you can downgrade slightly in graphics, but then get extra frames, so potentially, you know, slightly worse graphics, but then 60 frames per second. I'm pretty sure this is what they do in games like Spider-Man 2, where you can have ray tracing and stuff, but it's going to be 30 frames, or you can have no ray tracing, slightly worse graphics, but 60 frames per second. I'm pretty sure this is what they did in GTA 5 Expanded and Enhanced as well. You guys have to correct me if I'm wrong, but again, what I think they do in Expanded and Enhanced is you can have ray tracing, better graphics, but it's going to be locked at 30 frames, or you can have no ray tracing, slightly worse graphics, but it's going to be 60 FPS. So I do definitely think if there is a way for them to do this, this should absolutely be an option. And I think more and more games are shipping like this, so I don't see any reason why they can't do this. I don't see any reason in practice why they can't do this, even if it's reducing the graphics quality by a significant amount. At least the option's there for players to decide. And I do think this is the option most people want to go for, like, just to have the choice whether you play better graphics 30 FPS or slightly worse graphics 60 FPS, because then people will just get the choice, and I feel like that's what everyone wants. Some people still think that after all this time and after all this development, both in consoles and GTA 6, that it will release at 60 FPS. I think absolutely everyone would love for this to be the case, but I don't see it happening. If the game's actually going to be as big and ambitious as what it looks to be, I don't think they're going to be able to stretch 60 frames out of it. Again, everyone would love for that to be the case, but I just don't see it happening personally. Hopefully I'm wrong though. Hopefully I am. Some people even think there might be a 120 FPS mode, which is no. Again, I would love to be wrong, but I don't see that happening at all. Maybe a few years down the line where the PS6 or the PS7 comes out and they do Expanded and Enhanced for GTA 6, but day one, no chance. So chances are the game will be 30 FPS, but what I do hope is that it's actually locked to 30 frames per second. GTA 5 could do up to 30 FPS, but if you're playing on old gen consoles, you weren't ever getting close to 30 frames per second. If you played the old gen version of the game on old gen consoles, you are realistically getting around 19 to 20 FPS in public lobbies with massive stuttering. It wasn't until next gen consoles came out where if you played the old gen version of the game on a new gen console, you would get a solid solid 30 FPS, and now obviously that's been bumped up to 60 on expanded and enhanced. But if they are going to release the game at 30 frames per second, it needs to be locked to a solid 30 frames per second, no drops, nothing like that. Because if we have a GTA 5 situation where it's dropping down to like 20 frames per second, then that becomes an issue. Because with current hardware and all the development gone into the game, I feel like there's zero excuse for that to be happening by 2025. And trust me, that was a painful experience to go through back on Xbox One GTA 5. Like coming off any other game which would run well and then going back onto GTA 5 where you were playing at like 20 FPS with massive stuttering, it was painful. And finally, this is just, you know, kind of me waffling, but I hope GTA 6 PC port doesn't come too long after the game releases. At the moment, there's no mention of it releasing day one, which is a massive shame, and I probably will have to end up getting a PS5 or Xbox Series X, but I do hope the PC version doesn't take like a year to come out. Oh well, it probably will, knowing Rockstar, but only time will tell. Anyways, guys, let me know your thoughts on the whole GTA 6 FPS thing down in the comments below. Really curious to see what you guys have to say about this one. Also, let me know if you want me to make that Modern Warfare 3 review, and if you have any, you know, video ideas, commentary topics, just comment them down below. If you guys could like the video, it massively helps out, and thank you all for the massive support recently. But yeah, I'll see you in the next one.